My name is Kestra Voss, and I've been working as a senior accountant at Pinnacle Construction for 8 years. Darian Blackwood had been our CFO for the past 4 years. And everyone loved him. Charming, always buying lunch for the team, driving a brand new BMW, and somehow our department always came in under budget, which made upper management think he was a financial genius. I should have known something was off when a construction company consistently came in under budget during a time when material costs were skyrocketing, but I trusted him completely until that fateful Tuesday in March, when everything changed. I was working late trying to reconcile some quarterly reports when I noticed discrepancies in our vendor payments. Specifically, we were paying a company called Apex Materials Supply nearly $50,000 every month for the past 3 years, but I'd never heard of them and they weren't in our approved vendor list. When I dug deeper, I discovered that Apex Materials Supply was a shell company registered to Darian's brother-in-law, and the payments were for completely fabricated invoices for materials that were never delivered. But that was just the beginning. Over the next week, I uncovered a sophisticated embezzlement scheme where Darian had created multiple fake vendors, inflated real vendor invoices, and pocketed the difference, set up fake employee bonuses that went directly to his personal accounts, and even charged personal expenses like his daughter's wedding and his wife's cosmetic surgery to company credit cards under fabricated project codes. The total amount he'd stolen over 3 years was a staggering $2.3 million, and he'd been so clever about it that he spread the theft across dozens of different accounts and projects, making it nearly impossible to detect unless you knew exactly what to look for. When I confronted him privately in his office, thinking maybe there was some explanation, he initially tried to gaslight me by saying I was reading the reports wrong, and that I should focus on my own work instead of questioning senior management decisions. But when I showed him the evidence I'd compiled, bank statements, fake invoices, credit card records, and a detailed spreadsheet showing exactly how much he'd stolen and when, his whole demeanor changed, and he became threatening, telling me that if I breathed a word of this to anyone, he'd make sure I never worked in accounting again, because he had connections throughout the industry and could destroy my reputation with a single phone call. He even offered me a $25,000 bonus to keep quiet about what I'd discovered, which just confirmed his guilt and made me realize he saw me as just another problem to buy off. That night I went home and couldn't sleep, thinking about how this theft was affecting everyone. Our company had been struggling to give employees raises. We'd had to lay off 12 people the previous year due to budget constraints, and meanwhile David was living in $1 million house and taking luxury vacations to Europe while stealing money that should have gone to hardworking employees and their families. I knew I had to do something, but I also knew that Darian wasn't bluffing about his connections. He was well respected in the industry and had been with the company longer than me, so if it came down to his word against mine, I might not win. So I spent the next 2 weeks methodically documenting everything, making copies of every piece of evidence, and building an absolutely ironclad case that would be impossible to dispute or cover up. I photographed documents, downloaded bank records, created detailed timelines, and even used my access to the company's security system to get footage of Darian accessing files he shouldn't have been in and working late on nights when suspicious transactions occurred. But I knew that just going to our CEO might not be enough. especially since Darian had been so successful at making himself look like a financial wizard, so I decided to contact the FBI's white-collar crime division and the state Attorney General's office simultaneously. I also reached out to investigative reporter Michael Torres from the Chicago Tribune, who specialized in corporate fraud cases, because I knew that media attention would make it impossible for the company to sweep this under the rug or retaliate against me. When I finally made my move, I did it strategically. I sent all the evidence to the FBI and Attorney General's office on a Friday afternoon, then emailed everything to Michael Torres and our company's board of directors on Monday morning, and finally walked into our CEO's office with a printed copy of everything and told him that law enforcement was already investigating and the story would be in the newspaper within 48 hours. The next few days were absolute chaos. Darian was arrested at his desk on Wednesday morning in front of the entire office. Federal agents seized his computers and files, and the Tribune story broke that afternoon with the headline "Local Construction CFO Arrested for $2.3 million Embezzlement Scheme." Within a week, Darian's assets were frozen, his house was seized, and he was facing federal charges for wire fraud, embezzlement, and money laundering. But the consequences went far beyond just Darian. The company's reputation was severely damaged. We lost several major contracts, and the board of directors fired our CEO for failing to implement proper oversight controls. Darian's wife filed for divorce. His daughter's marriage fell apart when her new husband learned the wedding was paid for with stolen money, and his brother-in-law was also charged as an accomplice for helping set up the shell company. During the investigation, it came out that Darian had been stealing from his previous employer as well, and they filed additional charges against him. The trial lasted 6 months, and Darian tried every defense in the book, claiming he was just borrowing the money and planned to pay it back, saying he was under financial stress due to his wife's medical bills, which turned out to be cosmetic surgery, and even trying to blame me for misunderstanding legitimate business expenses. But the evidence was overwhelming, and the jury found him guilty on all counts. He was sentenced to 8 years in federal prison, ordered to pay $2.3 million in restitution plus fines and penalties, and banned from working in any financial position for life. The company used the recovered money to give bonuses to all the employees who'd been denied raises, brought back the 12 workers who'd been laid off, and implemented new financial controls to prevent future fraud. As for me, instead of being blacklisted like Darian threatened, I became known as a whistleblower who'd saved the company millions of dollars, and my career actually flourished. I was promoted to CFO to replace Darian, got a $50,000 raise, and have been contacted by 3 other companies trying to recruit me. 6 months after Darian went to prison, I ran into his ex-wife at a coffee shop, and she thanked me for exposing him because she said she'd always suspected something was wrong, but was too afraid to investigate, and now she was finally free from his manipulation and lies. The best part is that Darian had always bragged about being smarter than everyone else and how he could outsmart any system, but in the end, his arrogance was his downfall because he never imagined that a quiet accountant like me would have the courage and skills to bring down his entire criminal operation. Last I heard, he's working in the prison laundry for $0.25 an hour, which is quite a calm down from his previous $180,000 salary, and his fancy BMW was sold at auction to help pay his restitution. Sometimes the system actually works, and criminals who think they're untouchable learn that there's always someone watching, someone who cares about justice, and someone willing to fight back when they see innocent people being hurt by greed and corruption.